Welcome back to Ask Sloan, everybody.
Sponsored by Zentavos. Keep more of your money.
Welcome back to Ask Sloan, everybody. In this episode, I'm sitting here with Edwin Campos. He's one of my good friends. He works for us at Zentavos, and he's one of my operations managers. Crushing it. Very happy to have him here. And he's also owner of a logistics company.
That's right. Fun stuff.
Yes, very fun. We should talk all about it. So, you know, this is Ask Sloan. So what do you want to talk about today?
I want to talk about Zentavos, bro. I feel like you're putting it out there, of course, marketing and stuff, but what is it really, bro?
Zentavos, like it is a tool for small business owners to manage their business and their finances and achieve their financial goals. Like that's simply what it is, right? And where does it come from? It comes from growing up doing small business accounting, using QuickBooks and all these different tax softwares and all these other different solutions, and like none of them really working, and recognizing as a chief financial officer for small businesses that there's so many aspects to administration when it comes to cash flow, payroll, insurance, all the different things. And it's so difficult to really put a solid team together around those functions. And small business owners really, they just want to focus on selling and doing, right? And so they want the office taken care of for them, whether they're building it in-house or whether they're hiring contractors like us. And so Zentavos is going to be AI solution for small business administration and finance to help small business owners manage their cash, run their business, and achieve their financial goals.
But you know what's funny? Like, you know how we provide all these services to all these clients, but they just don't see the value in it. Mm-hmm. What do you think? Why do you think Zentavos? You think Zentavos, first of all, is going to replace what we currently do as accountants, or is it just going to provide added value to them? What do you like? Where is Zentavos going with this?
So, I mean, that's a good question, right? So for us, Zentavos is going to replace the tools that we use to provide these services manually and in a much better way, okay? Think about, like, we provide a CFO report once a month, right? So, like, in the middle of next month, you get this report that tells you what happened to your money. But that doesn't really, like, help you understand the decisions that you made along the way that created that landscape, okay? And so we've got some clients that come to us in October and November and are like, hey, let's look at my finances so I can figure out how to save money in taxes. And then other ones come to us in February and they're like, how do I save money in taxes? And I was like, well, it's over. Like there's nothing we can do now.
Every year never misses.
It never misses, right? Yeah. Okay, so one thing Zentavos for us is going to help us scale. Okay, is we're going to use AI integration all throughout. So we're not going to need thousands and thousands of clients to serve millions of businesses. We're gonna have a whole bunch of AI integration, and so it's going to do a lot of that heavy lifting. And then we're definitely going to be there to review and make sure that data is clean and working well. But for the small business owner, it's going to deliver actionable data. It's going to deliver information that they need today, instantly, like today, to help them make better decisions, right? So like our cash flow dashboard, okay? So, like we look at our bank account every day. Like I've already looked at my bank account 3 times today, right? But really, now I'm looking at Zentavos. And why? Because Zentavos tells me if I'm cash flowing or not. And how much am I cash flowing, right? So am I making $10 a day or am I losing $10 a day? And if I'm losing $10 a day, then should I go get Starbucks today? No, I shouldn't. I shouldn't get Starbucks today. I need to turn that around. How do I turn that around? I need to make 20 more bucks today, okay? And so that's that first data point that I think is so crucial to making financial decisions, is to know whether or not you're currently cash flowing and how you need to be adjusting your spend or adjusting your income. So where should I be focusing? Should I be focusing on making more money, or should I be focusing on spending less, right?
And I feel like this is gonna be something big for the business owners, just because I feel like maybe 80 to 90% of them don't see the value in an accountant. they just feel like an accountant is there for tax purposes, right? But I feel like, it depends on how their experience was with their previous accountants. The other side of the story is, I've encountered so many clients that are like, why should I pay this much for you guys? If all you guys are doing is crunching in numbers, so I want the people to understand why Zentavos is gonna, provide that value to them.
I think it's a good point. Okay, so let's break down, bookkeeping, accounting, tax, right? And let's break down like the industry. So you have bookkeepers, okay, and there's a bookkeeper is a person that basically
crunches in numbers.
logs a transaction. That's all they do. You go to McDonald's, and they categorize that transaction as meals, and that's fine, okay. And as long as the bookkeeper knows what category to put it in, then you're good. But the problem is there's a disconnect between the bookkeeper and the person spending the money. The person spending the money, which is the small business owner, they know what that is for. They know whether it's for materials or supplies. They know whether it's for labor. They know whether it's for advertising. They know that answer, but they're not with the bookkeeper. And they're not talking to the bookkeeper every day. And in today's world, like in the past, what you would do is you would actually have a piece of paper, and you could write on that piece of paper advertising and then hand it to the bookkeeper, and then the bookkeeper would know what it was. But we don't live in that world anymore. We live in a world where everybody's got a credit card or a debit card, and they're just spending it, and then you're populating transactions into a system, and then the bookkeeper's just like, oh, this looks like supplies, And we have categories like Ask My Accountant. Okay, so if the bookkeeper doesn't know what you're spending the money on, then they're going to get it wrong, right? And I tell people all the time, accounting is not a perfect game. It is a get as close as possible kind of game. And it's also a practice, okay? So generally accepted accounting principles. Well, a bookkeeper doesn't necessarily have any education in it. Maybe it's just something that they've been doing for somebody, so on and so forth. When I was a bookkeeper for my dad's CPA firm, he would give me a bunch of checks, and I would have to put them in the system, right? Put them in QuickBooks or whatever. And I would go to him and be like, hey, what's this? And he'd be like, well, what do you think it is? And I'm like, man, I don't know. Like, you're the CPA.
Yeah, you tell me.
And he's like, well, what do you think I have to do? Like, I wasn't there. I didn't spend the money. So I have to figure that out too. So how do you figure that out, right? Well, this company is a construction company. So 70% of what they spend their money on
It's construction stuff
is materials and supplies or labor. Does that look like a labor check? Or does that look like a material? Do you see what I'm saying? So that's like that's how like you learn how that kind of works. So then a bookkeeper, no education, this is what they do. Now, if you're transferring money between a whole bunch of accounts, you've got 2 or 3 businesses, or you're spending personal money out of your business, like if you're creating a financial mess, that bookkeeper is not doing it for you, period, because they don't really understand all of those things, okay?
Why do you think the clients, why do you think they don't really care or they don't see the importance of an accountant?
I'm going to tell you why, okay? In the beginning, you feel like you're not reading any of those reports. You're opening your bank account and looking at your balance, and that's how you're managing your finances. Okay?
That's your
report. That's your P&L. Oh, I got $5,000 today. Okay. Oh shoot,
I'm losing money.
I've
lost
$30,
money.
Yeah.
See, and it's funny because every tax year we get clients. They're like, oh, I 100% like I don't have my numbers, but I know for sure I lost money. Well, how do you know you lost money? Well, because all the money just drains out of the account. Well, how did it drain? Mm-hmm. Did you use it for personal things? Because if you did, then obviously, that doesn't count to your benefit.
Doesn't count. You buy a mountain bike, it's not. We can't write that off.
We can't do anything about it. And they're like, well, what can I do? Well, we're in February. We're in March, bro. You're late. You can't really do much other than invest in an SEP, right? Or max out your contributions. It's like, you should have came last year.
Well, and even those have like caveats. If you're not paying yourself compensation, then you can't use those things. So let's go back, right? And you're 100% right. And this is very important, right? So they're not really looking at their numbers, and they don't really understand them, right? If we give them a profit and loss statement, they really don't know what it means, okay? Because if it says, hey, you profited $10,000, but they only got $2,000 in the bank, they don't get it. Like you said, I made $10,000. Where is it? Well, but I didn't spend it. You did. You spent $8,000 of it. Like, where did
Yeah.
you spend it? Like what did you buy? You know, did you buy the kids school clothes? Did you do like what? Like, you know what I mean? Did you pay for your vacation? Because we can't write those things off, right? So an accountant is the next level, bookkeeper, accountant. An accountant is someone who's got education. Okay, they either have an accounting degree or a finance degree or something like that, and they've begun to work professionally in this field. And accounting is the next step. Okay, the bookkeeper is the person who puts the transactions in. An accountant will reconcile accounts, make sure that those accounts match the source documents. Okay, and then additionally separate things. Okay, hey, this is principal and interest on loans. They have to be separated, right? Okay, this is equity. Hey, I made a contribution to the business, or I made a distribution from the business, and understanding those ins and outs. To answer your question, though, the reason why they really don't get it is because they only need these reports for two things. What two things?
And to
buy a
taxes.
home and to file taxes. Fantastic. So that's the only time they need these reports. They don't read them.
They don't care about
They
them.
don't care about them. It doesn't make sense to them, especially a balance sheet. It's like the hardest thing in the world. And what's so funny about a balance sheet is like once you get it, it's actually not hard. But it took me 10 years to like get it. You know what I mean? But once you get it, it's like this is the balances of your accounts. Like it's like balance sheet. Like this is the balance. Balance feels like balancing on a tightrope. Okay, like that's what. But no, that's not it. What is the ending balance of this account on this date? That's really what it means. And then, but how do you use this information? Okay, so that's what Zentavos is going to do. We're not just going to flood our clients with a whole bunch of data points that they don't understand. And that's why our cash flow dashboard is very simple right now, y'all. We show you your net worth, we show you what your cash flow is, we show you what your available balance is, and then you have your transactions there. Now we're going to build on top of that and begin, and we're going to create a daily snapshot that's going to tell you, hey, this was the profit. This is what you spent personally, right? Like we're going to start to show them how that money works for them, and then we're going to give them advice on what to do about it. Hey, in comparison to all other companies that are trucking companies, you're overspending on labor. Your repairs are too high. You might want to think about getting a new fleet.
Diesel's gone up.
Diesel went up. You need to get paid more for your loads.
Exactly.
Okay, those are some of the things that we want to be able to build into Zentavos. Okay, we're not there yet. It's going to be a little bit of a journey for us to get all those things dialed in, but that's the key. And the final step in bookkeeping and accounting is the CPA. And that person has taken a lot of tests and done a lot of studying and really mastered generally accepted accounting principles and tax. Now, not tax strategy, how to file taxes, okay? Where it goes.
See, a lot of people get that confused too, because they come to us and then they refer to us. Like, for example, I'm not a CPA, right? You're not a CPA. So they're like, hey, call my CPA, let them know you have your, this situation going on. We have to disclose we're not CPAs, but we know pretty much the exact same things a CPA does, right? So all my knowledge, I've gained it from you, your dad, right? All this knowledge comes from 20, 30, 40 years of experience, right?
Well, yeah, Dad's been doing it for 50 years now,
And that's
and then it's a pretty big industry. Let's classify that. So we really focus on the small business owner, right? And so we are not extremely well versed when it comes to big business, right? Okay,
right,
it's a completely
all the type
different
of
animal. Okay, so
accounting,
you got
auditing.
10 different LLCs and a C corp, and you're publicly traded and all that. We don't have that acumen. That's not the clients that we serve. We serve the small business owner, right? And that's anywhere from $50,000 a year in revenue to $2 to $3 million in revenue.
Do you like what you do, bro?
I like,
Or you just fell into it?
well, I started doing it for Dad when I was young.
You can
right?
be honest, bro. If you don't like it, you don't like it.
I do not enjoy accounting and taxes. I don't enjoy that. But I'll tell you what I do enjoy. I do enjoy saving people money. I do enjoy helping them solve problems. I do enjoy teaching people how to achieve their financial goals. I enjoy that, right? And it takes really good accounting and really good tax work to achieve those results. Okay, so So really the things that I don't like about accounting and tax are the problems that we deal with, right? Okay, deadlines just freak me out. Okay, like it's really hard
We're
to
working
deal
Sundays.
with deadlines. Okay, and it can create an inflection point that causes errors and problems and things like that, and it's really frustrating because I really care about our clients, right? So
Sometimes I feel like we're in the place where we care more for the client than they care about their own business. Like we're trying to make ends meet. We're trying to make sure their profit and loss is accurate, so that way they can file an accurate tax return. Where I find the most value is, and I fell into this, right? Thanks to you, right? I was doing accounting for other, the big four or an oil company, but it's a whole different, like you said, it's a different beast, different type of accounting. But doing this for small business owners, I feel like the most value is whenever you're able to show the clients, like, hey, look, you're netting $346,000 in net income, which is great. You're making money, right? But let's figure out a way on how to save you money, like you said, right? Let's figure out some strategies. Let's implement this. And then I feel like my favorite part of that is when you start learning all these things and you start looking for opportunities, things that I didn't know last year, or brand new implications that the IRS is allowing business owners to deduct. That's where I find the value, especially for the client, because then once you're able to present them, their financials, they're like, okay, cool, I made money. Now what's next?
exactly. Yeah.
And then you're like, well, we can do this. For example, let's try the Augusta rule, right? So let's figure out the strategy. Let's put things into place, or let's try to do this type of investment that's going to lower your tax bill, right? Or figure XYZ to make sure that they understand that we're here to help them, keep most of their money. That's where I find
Absolutely, and that's why we work around goals and problems, right? Because to me, just doing a tax return is worthless unless you have goals, right? Doing accounting has the purpose that it has from a regulatory perspective, like, hey, I have to do taxes or whatever, or I need to buy a house, I need to get a loan for my business, whatever. I have to have these documents in order to do that. But if we don't really have clear goals in mind, then we're just blowing and going, right? And I talked about on the last episode, the psychology of money and everything. So really working with our clients to determine what their financial goals are and show them how to get there using these specific tools. That's where that's where really I get fulfillment, right? Is helping our clients provide for their families, achieve their goals, learn more about the psychology of money and how to make money work for them, as opposed to just being out there and being a slave to their business or their calendar or the next thing that they want to buy, and really understanding how the system works. And that's why we don't sell you can earn money and not pay taxes, because that's
right.
It's not true. Even though in our industry right now, that's the number one advertising point is, become a tax-free millionaire. And yes, there are ways to lower your taxes, but those ways have to make sense to you. Those ways have to work for not everybody's good at real estate. You own a couple pieces of real estate, and how easy has it been?
Man, you'd think twice.
Okay, right?
But it's great. I mean, it's great when everything is going well, but I feel like there's always those growing pains, or there's always going to be, it's like the stock market, bro. The stock market is never going to go up and it's never going to always go down.
Right.
It's going to have its
It's
points.
the Rocky Mountains. Yep. Absolutely.
And I feel like those moments are where you learn the most, when you're at the bottom. Remember, I was freaking out 4 months ago. I'm like, man, the property here is not renting. The other one, and the AC broke. My truck broke, so I'm not running loads. And then you're freaking stressing. And then
absolutely, bro.
I like how you put, sometimes you're spinning all the plates on sticks, right? And then if one starts to wobble, the other one starts to wobble, and you got to get to it,
Yeah.
until everything just falls.
Well, sometimes you can't get to all of them, and you step back and you see which ones fall and which ones don't. it's really funny which ones just stay spinning all by themselves,
Right.
and which ones fall. And usually the ones that fall are the ones you didn't need anymore, you know? But how's it going now? Like, are both your houses rented and you're running loads and the truck is on the road and everything's okay?
Everything's going well.
As cash flow rebounded, so not so much stress?
Stress is always going to be there,
Okay.
you know, because you can always make more.
Sure.
And you're always like, there's always a point where you're thinking about what to do next. And I feel like that's where my mind is always like, okay, cool, this is going great, but I needed to get from this point to this point, you know?
So what are your goals? Like we've been talking about, it's super important. What are your financial goals now that you're working with Zentavos, you've got investments in rental properties, and you've got a trucking company. What is Edwin's financial goals?
Well, I feel like my financial goals are always going to be, be better than I was yesterday.
Okay.
And I feel like it's more like everybody's on that same path. Like, oh, I need to make more money. I need to make more money. But my financial goal in reality is to get to a point where, for example, number one goal is to make sure my parents get to retirement age and don't have to be working at that point.
Okay.
You know?
And do you have a number on that?
A number.
So retirement costs a certain amount of money, right? Okay. And so if you're going to help support your family, your parents in their retirement, okay, what does that look like? And does that have a number associated with it?
So the monetary value that I'm looking for there is just, being able to generate close to $1 million net, between all of my investments.
A year.
Okay,
so you want to earn $1 million a year, okay, between all of your investments and the compensation that you get for work, right? And how much of that million? So let's just pretend, okay, you don't have any tax strategies associated with that, okay, and you got to pay 30%, okay. So you're going to net $700K, okay, and then how much of that are you allocating to support your parents in their retirement?
Another $200K, possibly.
200. So your parents have like an $18,000 a month lifestyle.
That's the goal.
Okay. I mean,
yeah.
Do you think that's the real number? Like, do they spend 18 grand a month?
I would say not necessarily. Not now, obviously, because it's it's not.
Because we don't have it.
Yeah, it's not there yet. We're not there yet.
But if we had it,
but if we had it, of
cost
course,
that.
okay. Like I feel like that at that point you're living great, you're eating good, and then there's no necessity to be working.
So financially free. You feel like that's the financially free number. Mom and dad need something, whether it's medical or whether it's like travel or whether it's this or whatever. Then
that's a comfortable number.
Couple $100,000 a year should cover that, right? And so then you're taking home $500,000 a year,
which is fine.
Which is fine, and you're providing for your family in that.
Exactly.
Okay? Awesome. So in my opinion, quantifying it like that is the first step in really we can set goals.
You develop the big picture first.
But if we don't have a plan to achieve those goals, if that goal isn't quantified, if it doesn't actually have a number associated with it or some specific actions associated with it, it's never going to happen.
How do you think we could get to those goals?
Well, I mean,
what do you need to get to those goals?
Well, to quantify those things, like you've got a trucking company, okay, right? So you got one truck right now. If you do the math on the capacity of that truck, how many loads can it run a day, a week, a month? Okay, right? Capacity, not what you are doing, but what can it do? Okay, and then
times it times two.
Well, when you add another truck, so on and so forth. But first, let's just go with this first truck. How often is it going to break down? Okay, so first of all, it runs 100% of the time, never breaks down. That's this capacity, okay? But that's not realistic. So how often is it going to break down? Okay, so it's going to be out of commission for 1 month out of the year. Okay, so then, okay, hey, I got 11 months of capacity. Here's how that works. Okay, and then what are my costs associated with that? So on and so forth. Insurance, blah, 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 cost of the driver. Okay, so break that down per one truck. Okay, then yes, now multiply that by 2, by 3, by 4. Okay, and so when you figure out your net on one truck, then to get your trucking business to where it's netting you $100,000 a year $200,000 a year. You're the owner, so you get paid last, right?
Right.
So how do you have to grow it to get you to net 100K, 200K, 300K? Okay, and then what's the life of that? Okay, 3 years, 5 years, 7 years. How long will it take me to get there? Right. Okay, and then with the rental properties. Okay, am I buying a rental property every year? Do I have a plan for that? Am I earning enough income to support purchasing a house every year? Because that's when you're going to get the biggest tax breaks, is by purchasing a house every year. Okay, now you probably want to become a real estate professional, okay, so that you can take that deduction against your other income, right? So there's a plan there, okay, to use these investments as a way to lower your tax liability, but also build wealth. Okay, now those things aren't going to cash flow for you to the tune of $100,000, $200,000, $300,000 a year.
Right.
Okay, so you've got, that's a 10-year plan, right? Okay, and so not sure how long mom and dad are going to be in retirement and all that, but like focusing on that. So that's probably your retirement plan.
That's
okay. So that's not factored in the equation of your everyday. That's factored into your equation for 40 years from now when you retire. So 40 years from now when you retire, if you have 20, 30 properties, well, you've got a huge nest egg that you can now borrow against, or you can sell properties, and then you can fund your retirement and or provide a legacy for your family. And then, of course, you're invested in Zentavos, okay? So you've got shares there. You're going to continue to get additional stock options as we grow that business, right? And then, of course, you're our operations manager. So hopefully we're going to be able to one day pay you a clip, okay? Maybe we're paying you $500,000 a year one day, hopefully.
Let me go ahead and sell my stock, my shares right now, bro.
No, buy some more right now.
Buy some more, yeah. We need to buy some more.
So that's how you really develop that financial plan, okay? And you can do some studying on your own. You can watch YouTube videos. You can do the thing, okay? Or you can get somebody like JP, who's a financial advisor, to kind of help you with that roadmap, because it's kind of standard operating procedure today, And even like with the advent of AI, we're going to be an AI first company. So I would even like put those goals into Chat or Claude or whatever and say, hey, develop me a financial plan, and here's all of these different data points. And then here's my next 10-year roadmap. This is how I get there, right? And then put some discipline around those actions so that on a daily basis, monthly basis, quarterly basis, annual basis, you're following that action plan. Okay. And then I like what JP said. He said, bake into that some spending. You love to travel with Brianna, right? Okay.
Right.
And so like bake into that, hey, I want to spend $20,000 a year on travel. Okay. So on and so forth. So bake in your fun,
like a budget
to that plan. Yeah. A budget for your fun, for your lifestyle, but also for your needs. When and if you guys plan on having kids, things like that. Like you're gonna modify your financial plan. So you need to review it like at least once a year and really say, am I on track or am I off track? If I'm off track, what adjustments do I need to make? Right? Did I make unrealistic goals? Do I need to move the timeline out? Like, I think that's the most difficult thing that we do, and we're getting kind of close to the end. So we'll give them the words of wisdom right now is, how much time are you spending on mapping out your financial plan? And if you're not spending any time on it, if you're not asking questions, if you're not learning, if you're just like, I want to make more money so I can have more stuff, that's not a financial plan. And you're not going to achieve the results that you think you're going to achieve unless you have a mapped out section of goals. So spend some time every month, just a little bit of administrative time, where you're really thinking about your money from a perspective of long-term financial goals, and then unpacking how you get there with the different aspects of your life. Edwin has a job, he's got investments in real estate, and he's got another company, right? Okay. What does your portfolio look like? And what is the math that gets you to achieve your financial goals?
Or if you need to know where to start, I feel like, we're here. We're here to support. We're here to support. Come get with Zentavos. We're here to help. You need an accountant. You need a starting point. We're here.
Absolutely. And so start thinking about bookkeeping, accounting, tax, and all that. Stop thinking about it as something you have to do, and start thinking about as a tool to use to achieve your goals.
Use it like the gym, right?
Absolutely.
Sometimes you
Go
hate going to
on.
the gym, but I mean, you put in the work and you feel great.
Absolutely.
Same thing with your business. It has to feel like it's a thing you want to do.
I love that, Edwin. I love that. Well, thank you guys so much for joining us. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit that notification button. And just
Follow
like
us.
Zentavos says, keep more of your money.
Sponsored by Zentavos. Keep more of your money.